What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically feature a beer of the week. If this is your first time joining us, welcome aboard. We hope you stick around. Go ahead, rate, subscribe, share with a friend, all of that good stuff. We can be found on any podcasting platform at Hops Geek News and any social media platform at Hops Geek News. The way our show works is we typically start with what we're drinking, what we've messed up on and looked into, what we've been reading and watching, and then we dive into some news before going into a main topic. So today we're going to kind of dive into Adam Warlock. Since Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out here in just a couple of weeks, we're going to dive into the origins of Adam Warlock to get you prepared for that movie. That's Charlotte to crush us all. I'm Matt. With me is Lauren, and I'm drinking water today. I'm sick. We're recording this. I can barely talk as it is. It hurts like hell. But so I'm drinking water. Lauren, what are you drinking?
Well, considering I just picked up the kids from school, I too am drinking water, but I did garnish it with a lovely organic lemon, and it is in my Festival of the Arts inaugural year service. So I got a little fancy.
Lemon?
It is an organic lemon. They're the best.
Nice organic lemon that only Waffle House cannot provide.
This is true.
So, yeah, what did we mess up on last week?
So neither of us could remember where Namor is from in the MCU. It is not Atlantis like in the comics. It is Talakan.
Yes, you did it.
I don't know if I did it well, but there you go. So, and like I said last week, I love that they differentiate it from DC Comics, and they brought in, some Mesopotamian culture as well. So I think that's really cool. I love how they did that. I love Namor.
Yeah, I like the subtle changes that they do in the MCU. It makes sense. Typically when they change something, it really makes sense. And then obviously, yeah, if you have Aquaman from Atlantis and then Namor, so it's why would you keep the same the two? So I agree with you.
And that's all we messed up or looked into, I believe.
Yay. Unless somebody catches something. So why don't you go ahead and start us off? What have we been reading or watching this past week?
Really not much. We don't even have a new Mando to talk about, but you caught up on Mando. I did watch a movie called Wind River that was actually pretty good. It caught my attention because it had Hawkeye and it had Scarlet Witch, and then Punisher was in it as well. And the new one, John Bernthal.
Yeah, I know what this. Yeah. How was that?
It was really good, but it was like they start at the beginning and they're like, this movie is based on true events. And I kind of forgot that. And because it's a bit of a mystery. It's like a whodunit, but it's very sad. And they put at the end that there's so many like Native American women that have gone missing. And there's not even like a group for that specific heritage to like document the missing cases. So it was all about like, some town that was on a Native American reservation and how it's just kind of just ignored. And it was really sad, but it was really good. And the main characters are Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. And I thought they both did a great job. And the guy that was in The Last of Us that were like, this guy's in everything, that was just being like funny. And he's just like, did you tell him the truth? You telling me the truth? He's in it. So he's like the cop in the area. Yeah, he's in all this stuff. But I really liked it. Again, it was called Wind River. We watched it on one of those freebie, you have to download the app and there's a commercial in the middle of a sentence.
We have some of the apps like Hulu will have ads or whatever, because I'm not paying for ad free for everything. So anytime there's an actual ad, my kids freak out and they're like, what are all these ads here? And it's just like, dude, you don't even know the struggles that we went through growing up when you actually had to watch TV and you would get like 4 commercials per hour. You just don't even realize the struggles and how good you have it.
Well, I did watch the recent episode of Gotham Knights, and yeah, even watching that the next day on CW, there's still a lot of ads. So for anybody who does want to try to give the Winchesters a chance, if you do have HBO Max, it is on there now, and that obviously does not have commercials.
I think it's like the top 3 streaming on HBO Max, like the top 3 most popular on HBO Max right now.
I bet a lot of people caught wind of the finale, and they're like, okay, I'll give it a chance.
Or they just waited to binge it, to see.
For no commercials.
But still, I mean, that's good because I imagine that they'll renew it for season 2. They haven't announced yet, but I would imagine they would.
I mean, I'm one of those, if I like something, give me more of it. The only thing I feel like I've ever been skeptical on them doing a sequel for would be Nightmare Before Christmas, because I just feel like it's perfection.
Some things just don't need a sequel, and I would say Nightmare Before Christmas is one of them.
Yeah, but most things, if I like it, give me more.
Give me more.
And that's all I've watched is Wind River.
Yeah, well, I have caught up on Mando, and I like this season, but I feel like there's something missing this season. Something isn't quite that's missing something that the first two seasons had. I don't know what it
Tatooine?
is. Yes, obviously it's Tatooine. Why does everybody want to go back to Tatooine? But no, it's a good season. Like, it's great getting to see Bo kind of retake. She's had like such a roller coaster, right? She went from the rightful heir of Mandalore to a terrorist, back to kind of like the rightful heir to losing everything to outcast, and now she's got the dark saber on a technicality, which you were right. Lauren was right. She called this out.
I don't think it was a technicality though. Well, they also, in that specific episode, they focused on the dropping of the lightsaber, and they focused and she picked it up to defeat the guy too. So I felt like that was relevant, but then they kind of gave it away on the recap at the beginning because they showed those specific things again. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. But you were calling it though.
Yes, I do wonder though if I think because everybody was kind of like, oh yeah, how convenient now for Mando to just hand her the dark saber. But I do wonder if he was thinking about it and like kind of contemplating like, did I lose it? Like I did drop it and she did have it, and I feel like you even see him when he picks up to slice the droid, like it's still so heavy for him.
Yeah.
So I really want
it. He never wanted it.
And I don't think it was like, oh, let me just find an excuse to give it to her. I really think he was contemplating because he understood the importance of this is not a gift, and she even says it. No matter how well intentioned, that it is something you have to earn. So I do think that he thought about it. And I think in asking the Mandalorians, like none of them disagreed with him.
Well, they're all like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It did make sense.
So
I would have to say that, like, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in 2 more episodes. Like,
they're probably not.
what's it almost just kind of feels like we're just going directionless, I think, is my problem. Like, yeah, there's kind of like an overall theme of we want to bring back reunite the Mandalorians, but at the same time, to me, it kind of feels like it's directionless in a way. And we're just doing a bunch of random side quests for no reason. And I don't know, something about it has just kind of felt off to me this season. It's felt a little cheaper as far as being shot too. Like, we're used to this cinematic feel, whereas it's kind of felt a little cheap to me as well. And that's a stupid complaint. I realize I'm just bitching at this point.
I mean, yeah, I will say the one thing I will say is like when I saw, obviously we're doing spoilers for Mando. We haven't seen, by the time this comes out, we have not seen the most recent one. But it did take me out of it for a second when I saw Jack Black. And then I didn't know who that was. I thought that might...
Lizzo and Jack Black. Yeah.
Right. That took me a minute. And I'm like, I think that's her, but I'm not sure. So that did take me out for a second. And I had to, it's funny because my cousin Tabby, we were at MegaCon all weekend and she hadn't watched any of Mando this season. And she's a huge Rebels fan and a huge Clone Wars fan. And I was driving me nuts. And I'm like, I can't talk to anybody about Zeb. I'm like, Matt hasn't seen it. You haven't seen it. And so finally,
I'm so glad Zeb made an appearance though. Like, that was sick.
So she loves Jack Black. She thinks he is amazing. And so when he randomly, like the last person you would expect to show up in Star Wars showed up, I was like, okay, you have to watch it now. Like, do not wait anymore. And then she did start it. And I'm like, you're going to know the exact moment I text you. So I even like paused it there and text her. But it did take me out of it a little bit, but I did then get back into it. And then, of course, Christopher Lloyd showed up, but he didn't take me out of it as much because I've seen him. He's old, man. He was old. I'll be 40 honest, years ago. I'm
surprised that he is still acting, because when I saw him at MegaCon in 2015, he like could barely formulate a sentence. It was tough to watch. And so I'm very surprised that he's still acting, and like, good for him. I'm glad he's doing okay.
Yeah. Well, he was in a movie with the guy from Better Call Saul not too long ago too. He played his dad. But I mean, I was 2 when Back to the Future came out. Yeah. And I'm about to be 40 to put that into perspective. Yeah.
I don't know. I will say it did take me out of it too. Like, I'm super glad that, good for Lizzo, because like she was talking about how she cried when she found out she got the role, seeing her and Jack Black. Something about it, like, I think that kind of felt kind of cheap in a way. Just like, it wasn't, I don't know. Me just senselessly complaining. I'm glad that they were in it. It was fun. They did a great job. There's just something off about this season to me, and I'll leave it at that. I
think it'll all pay off, though. I get that it's definitely different than the last 2 seasons, but I think his goal is also different than it was the last 2 seasons. But the fight between Bo and Axe Wolves, that was
a good fight.
Awesome.
Cool. I also like how they have Sasha Banks. She's there, just like as this face that you recognize, but she's just kind of like stands there menacingly. She never actually says a word in this episode.
I'm okay with that, especially after seeing her at MegaCon.
Oh, yeah. I did watch The Bad Batch, by the way. I'm caught up on season 2 of The Bad Batch. It ends pretty heavy, man. The show works better for me as I binge it. Just some animated shows do. That's just how it goes. And there was a lot of like man, the heaviness of Crosshair. There was that one episode where he saves the other clone. They fight through the winter and all this thing because they failed to retrieve these crates. They get back, and that lieutenant's basically like, nope, I'm not going to save this clone. You guys failed at your mission. He served the Empire. And you can see Crosshair for the first time is really like, dude, what?
Did I pick the right side?
Yeah. He's questioning it, and he ends up shooting the lieutenant, and then he gets captured because he passes out, and interested to see what happens there. I have a feeling, and we'll talk about it here in a minute when we get into news, but this episode, there's just a lot of things that you're just like, man, that's really fleshing out the things that the Empire has done, the way the clones were treated. The stormtrooper program that Emperor Palpatine announced was pretty insane, and just the viciousness of the Empire they're really fleshing out is something that I really enjoyed. And then it ends with Omega. Spoiler alert, Omega's captured and she's back. And I think this cloning program is the start of Palpatine wanting to clone himself because she's
which is interesting seeing them doing that, which is before the original trilogy. At the same time, they're doing it in Mando, which is after the original trilogy.
In a live action at some point. I'm very curious.
I was wondering that too. Cause I mean, yeah, like a grown up Omega. Cause I would say she's like, she ages properly, unlike the other clones, because she's actually older than the Bad Batch. But she should be the same age as Kanan.
I think so. Yeah. It should be an older version. I don't know. Well, I'd be interested to see how that works out. And how
would she be the same age as Boba? Yeah, she would be the same age as Boba.
What if maybe a little bit younger in the Mandalorian or something? Because you know how they're trying to capture Grogu to clone. Well, what if they find the cloning facility and Omega's there captured or something like that? Like,
oh my God, for all those years,
they break her out. Yeah, like what if that's something we get?
Are we gonna get like not even old man Rex, because we got old man Rex and Rebels? Are we gonna get like on his deathbed Rex?
I mean,
he can't be that much older though, because it seemed like the original trilogy went pretty quick. Like those happened fast.
Yeah, everybody kind of ages differently in Star Wars. Like Bo-Katan's like 90 years old.
She's not 90.
I feel like she was for like ever.
I feel like she was like a teenager in the last season of Clone Wars.
Okay, but then the last season of Clone Wars ends. The time gap is 20 years between Into the Sith and The New Hope, and then I believe it's maybe even 5 years between A New Hope and Empire, and then it's like 2 years between Empire and Jedi. And then we're picking
Battle of Endor.
Yeah, and then we're picking right up basically with Mando at the Battle of Endor, and then it's 30 years between Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Maybe it's just a lot of. I did see somebody did the math recently that like Grogu would be like 91 when this new Rey movie comes out. And that was around the age, or I guess Yoda became a Jedi Master around 100.
Which is weird because if Yoda's a Jedi Master around 100, well, I guess there's a lot of time for Grogu to flesh himself out and learn to speak and become a real being, I guess.
And take the creed.
All right, Star Wars ages weird. Let's roll into some news. Speaking of Star Wars.
That is kind of funny. I feel like we should try to do that. But yeah, maybe I guess they can just use that excuse.
Yeah. You know, it's
well, you live on this planet, you know, the two suns will age you quicker, whereas on this planet
ages you like a leather book.
Or, you know, maybe just you spend some time in a Bacta tank and it reverses your aging process by 5 years.
True. No idea. Let's go into some Star Wars Celebration news as it has just wrapped up. First things first, we awoke Friday morning? Yeah, to an Ahsoka trailer. We got our first look at the Ahsoka TV show, which premieres in August, and it's glorious. I mean, Ahsoka is, you know, using her lightsabers pretty much throughout. It's great to see her dual wielding again. I know we got a little bit of that in Mando, but there's like Sabine, Wren, we get to see her. And then, of course, Hera as well. Chopper makes an appearance. And then we have Ray Stevenson, who is one of the, I don't know if he's necessarily like a Sith Lord or what his deal is. They kind of have orangish lightsabers, which Dave Filoni said that he did on purpose. And that's not the first time that orange lightsabers had made an appearance.
I didn't even pick that up. I thought it was red.
I mean, people just found anything and everything to complain about, right?
But that's like, the guy that
it's
played
not blood red.
And played Volstagg, right?
Yeah, well, he also played the Punisher in Warzone.
Oh yeah, and he was in Dexter.
He's in a lot of stuff. Like he's a wicked famous actor. He's great.
But I realized it was Volstagg, one of the Warriors 3, and this like fancy dude from Dexter. I was like, how the hell is that the same person? Facial hair, man.
also got our first look at Thrawn, played by Lars Mikkelsen, who plays him in Rebels. And so Thrawn's back. My hope is that we don't just blow through Thrawn and he's gone by the time The Force Awakens happens. Maybe set it up to where he's like the big bad guy, because we also had an announcement that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is going to be directing a film set 15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, where we see Rey is rebuilding the Jedi Order. And the Jedi are kind of in disarray. She's also going to be rebuilding it. So I kind of hope that we build Thrawn back up, because Thrawn should have been the bad guy in the sequel trilogy anyways, in my opinion. But regardless, we are getting that movie, and I really hope they throw the bag at John Boyega. I doubt he will return to a Star Wars movie after the way everything ended and just the experience he had doing these 3 movies. But it would be really cool. Maybe we get Ezra and Grogu and Rey, like the 3 of them, rebuild the Jedi Order. That would be something that's pretty sweet. Let's go. Now, other news, we have 2 other movies that were announced. Dave Filoni is going to wrap up this part of the Mandoverse with a film. Whether that means Mandalorian's ending, I'm not really sure. He said he always kind of envisioned 7 seasons. We're on 3 right now. Not sure how that all works out, but he's going to wrap it. Everything else is going to culminate in a big movie, which I'm here for, obviously.
I know, but when I heard that, I'm like, I don't want it to ever end. I want it to be 15 seasons, like Supernatural.
Yeah, I don't want it to end ever either, but everything must come to an end at some point. As we found out with the Bad Batch, season 3 is going to be the final season of Bad Batch, which I think we're going to get the clone rebellion in this season, because the clones have been pushed to this point. They're being phased out. They're treated badly. They rebel against the Empire. And of course, we kind of know how that works out for them.
So we got some other news. Peacemaker season 2 will take place after Superman Legacy, but it's not going to be until like 2025, which is kind of
interesting,
annoying. I'm wondering if more information will come out and change that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Joker wrapped filming and will now come out October 4th, 2024. Tales of the Jedi season 2 is happening. So that was the little shorts on Disney Plus.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, I liked the
I haven't
first
watched
season.
it yet, but
oh really? So actually, if anybody's interested in the chronological order of all the Star Wars stuff, because I personally find that the best to watch it in and the least confusing, I updated our document on hopsnews.beer, or you can just Google Hops Geek News and it'll come up. And under our articles, it says Star Wars in chronological order. And I added in the Tales of the Jedi, because there's one with Dooku before he's a Jedi. I was
thinking the other one. Yeah, I've watched some of this. I haven't watched all of it yet.
3 of them are Ahsoka. But they take place at different times. So I put those in the chronological order the best I could. But like one of them starts at Padme's funeral, and it's Rex and Ahsoka.
Oh my God, that's
and then they show her in the thing. Yeah. So it'll be fun to see what they do for season 2. I wonder if they'll go further, because they really just stayed in that prequel trilogy era and before.
Well, there's a lot to talk about as far as like. One of the movies that we're also getting by James Mangold is Dawn of the Jedi, which is about the very first Jedi. So I'm curious to see if, now that we're kind of tapping into this old Republic era, if they kind of go backwards. Maybe they show Yoda when he's in Jedi training, things like that.
Will we get a movie of Darth? What is it? What's his name? Plagueis?
Plagueis the Wise. First and foremost, if we're going back in time and doing the old Republic, if I ever see Darth Revan pop up on screen, just know my head will literally explode. Literally. Oh my God. You have to do some research on Darth Revan, which Star Wars month is coming up, folks. And I've got some ideas, so maybe we'll do an episode there. But yeah, I'm really interested, because it's kind of like a biblical tale about the very first Jedi. And I kind of want to see this. Like we're getting a lot of things that are spanning a lot. And I'm glad that we're moving away from Skywalkers in general right now, to be honest with you, getting more of that lore, because there's so much Star Wars lore. It's literally endless, the things that you can do. Yeah,
definitely. And it's so vast, you don't even have to keep it to specific planets. Yep. So with the Ahsoka Tano trailer coming out, Disney Plus has released, if you go to like Star Wars on Disney Plus, you can see different playlists basically that they've created. So I'm actually currently watching the Siege of Mandalore playlist, and it just gives you all the episodes from like Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, all of it. And it's just kind of just refreshing your recollection if you've already watched them, or if you don't want to go and watch all these cartoons. So they have a longer playlist. It's Ahsoka Tano Essential Episodes. My only complaint though, is you click on one and then it just starts playing the episode that comes right after that. It doesn't play the one that comes after that on the playlist. So then you got to go back into the damn playlist. Yeah. So that's annoying, Disney Plus. You need to fix that.
How would they set it up like that? That makes no sense.
I know, but it's driving me a little nuts because then I have to go back each time. And my last piece of news is Star Tours, which is the ride that they have at Disneyland Paris, they have at Disneyland, and they have at Hollywood Studios here in Orlando. I do too, and it's very underrated. So they're adding new destinations. So I personally cannot count how many times I've been on that ride just in the last year, and it's always different because
I've always ridden in a different location when I've gone on there.
Yeah. And like they'll pick and choose, like you could go to one planet you've been to before, and then all of a sudden you're in another planet. So they usually keep it though, like you're not going to, see Jar Jar and then see Rey. So, they don't combine it like that, but it's like C-3PO's piloting. And I've seen Boba Fett in there. And when he was a bad guy, though, obviously I don't consider him a bad guy anymore. So that they're adding new destinations, but we don't know what. I'm guessing they'll add some Mandalorian or something. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure you go to like Mandalore maybe or something like that.
Oh, maybe that'd be cool. I do believe that I have seen a Razor Crest because I feel like one time I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was a Razor Crest.
Probably.
But it's fun. And honestly, there's barely ever a line for that ride in Florida, at least.
It's very underrated. Super underrated. I like that one a ton. That's one that I will repeatedly go on.
Well, we did do it in Disneyland, and it is exactly the same. So. It
is. Yeah, it is. I did them both as well. I do have two pieces of news before we roll into Adam Warlock. The Acolyte will come out in 2024, and it's set hundreds of years before the Clone Wars. We got some stills. This show is going to be fantastic. We have Skeleton Crew starring Jude Law is going to take place post Return of the Jedi, and that's going to come out later this year. I imagine with Ahsoka in August, we'd probably look at, I would say November timeframe because we're getting Secret Invasion in June. So the way they want to space everything out, I would say November we'll probably get that. And then Andor Season 2 has begun filming. It will release in 2024. And of course, it leads directly into Rogue One. And that's
you see the videos of all the guys at Star Wars Celebration dressed up like they were at Narkina 5?
I did. I saw that. I did.
The one way out. Some of them had floaties on.
Speaking of which, Star Wars Celebration will be in 2025 in Japan. So
get those passports.
It's about time
ready.
to start a GoFundMe so we can go to
GoFundMe
Tokyo, Japan.
Is it in Tokyo?
Awesome. It's in Tokyo, yeah.
Okay, because that's where Disneyland is too.
Could you imagine we somehow like make it to Tokyo, Japan for Star Wars Celebration in 2025 as a podcast?
How long is that flight? It's probably closer.
It's a long time.
Who knows where you'll be? I'm going to say being on the West Coast, it's probably closer.
Yeah, could you imagine though? Like that's goals. So, hey, fire up the GoFundMe. Send us to Tokyo, Japan in 2025.
Well, it was here in 2017 when I didn't really care about Star Wars.
I know. God dang it. Gosh dang it.
I know a few people who are upset it's not coming to Orlando. They really thought it was coming
I'm
back.
sure it'll come to Orlando probably 2027. It would be my guess. It'd be back in Orlando or something of that nature.
That seems so far away.
Well, I think it's the 50th anniversary of A New Hope as well that year. So I'm pretty sure they're going to do
yeah.
big.
Wow.
They're going to do something massive, I want to say, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks for sticking around. We'll be right back in just a second. We are going to roll into some Adam Warlock to get you ready for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the latest film from James Gunn in the MCU, where they're sure to rip our hearts out. We'll catch you in a moment.
Hey, JR.
What's up, Zach?
Can I ask you something?
Of course.
Do you even like Jordan?
Jordan, as in the host of our podcast, Hop Heroes? That Jordan?
Yeah. I mean, I get that he's part of the show and likes to drink beer and talk comics, but he just kind of gets on my nerves. That dude literally thinks Gambit could take Cyclops. Scott fucking Summers. I mean, what kind of imbecile?
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I'm running late for this promo. I just got a little held up. What'd I miss?
Hey, bro. You didn't miss anything. Nothing.
All right, everything all right? What's going on?
Nothing. We're talking about the podcast, how we like to drink craft beers and discuss comic book stories and shows.
Yeah, that's all we were talking about.
Wait, JR, did you finally tell Zach that we didn't really like him?
Wait, what the fuck?
Hop Heroes, the show where three best friends bridge the gap between great beer and the comic book universe. Find us on all platforms where you find podcasts.
I honestly don't really like either of you guys, so...
Welcome back. Like I said, we're talking Adam Warlock. And if you've been living under a rock, Adam Warlock is going to be played by Will Poulter, who had a glow up and a half. This dude, when he was on like We're the Millers and everything like that, was
Oh
like
my
this
God, I
nerdy,
seriously
goofy
question
kid.
this casting.
Yeah. And now he's on that Marvel MCU diet where he's just ripped and he's a handsome young devil. That young
This was more though than the more Marvel diet though. Like he definitely had a
that
glow
Marvel
up, and
personal
then
trainer.
I think he was still in puberty during Meet the Millers or something. Because like Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, like they were attractive dudes before.
Oh yeah,
Like,
this kid was
took it
and
next
he
level.
had a glow up, man. Good for
Yes.
him. Can I get some of that,
Yes.
please? Is it too late for a glow up? No, Ryan Reynolds had to glow up on his 40s, so I guess it's never too late.
A lot of guys do. Y'all get nicer with age, and we get
Oh, thank
older with
God, there's
age.
hope for me yet. Anyways, in the film, he was created by Aisha, or will be created by Aisha, and he was teased in the end credits of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with a very fancy cocoon. However, he was also teased with a more organic looking one in Thor the Dark World. So we've been teasing him for a while. And he was also in the post-credit scene with Sif and Volstagg, where they stupidly give the collector the ether, the red Infinity Stone. And so they've been teasing for a while. A lot of people expected him to show up in the Infinity Saga because he did play a big part in the Infinity Saga in the comics. But
and what we'll get to in a minute is he gets the gemstone, and that is the first mention of any Infinity Stone in Marvel comics, period. So it makes sense that the two kind of go hand in hand,
right,
or head to head. Oh.
Whatever it is. So Adam Warlock was created by the OGs, man. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He first appeared in Fantastic Four issue number 66 in September of 1967. And at that time, he was just referred to as him. So didn't have a name at the time. And later on, he was significantly developed by Roy Thomas and Jim Starlin. He is one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Some of the people that he has defeated are Thor, Drax, who in the comic books, Drax was originally designed to defeat Thanos. And he even defeated Mephisto in his
Will this
own
be when we meet
Devil's
Mephisto?
Realm. Oh my God, are we getting Mephisto in Volume 3?
That's my theory.
It's assumed that Warlock grew in power from the damned souls who surrounded him in that realm. He and the Silver Surfer shared a soul at one point, which allowed Adam to be able to manipulate the surfboard.
Adam was an artificial being created in a cocoon, like we mentioned before, similar to the one at the end credits of Guardians or Thor Dark World, by the Enclave to lead an army. However, he later rebelled against his scientist creators, realizing they had an evil plan. And then he dipped out to explore space and try to figure out the meaning of his existence. However, that was not the original intention for his character. Jack Kirby originally conceived him as a critique on objectivism after talking with Steve Ditko about ideology. And keep in mind, like, Jack Kirby also created the Internals based on gods. And so he really tried to put like a lot of, I think, thought and different cultures and everything into these characters.
You're talking about superheroes and the idea of God. I mean, look at Superman, and I know this is DC, but they play into those godlike aspects. And so it's really interesting when you bring the idea of religion into comic books as well, because how can God exist if these superheroes exist? And that's a whole other topic though, but
Supernatural addresses that
that's
pretty well. And they even, you haven't gotten there yet, so maybe I should save it. But there are comments made by certain gods about God thinking he's the one true God. And it's kind of interesting because they have all these different religions. And we've seen it in Marvel, though, where you have different God or you have different afterlives. So we've seen more than one afterlife. But so originally in Fantastic Four number 66, the Enclave was a trio of well-meaning scientists set out to create a new breed of man along objectivist principles. And as soon as him is born, he kills them because he's completely amoral. Stan Lee basically flipped this. And now we have Adam Warlock.
We do. He then encounters the High Evolutionary, who's actually going to be in the movie. The High Evolutionary can evolve genetic material, which gave Adam the Soul Gem, aka the Soul Stone, in the MCU. This is the first appearance of any Infinity Stone in Marvel. The Soul Gem can emit beams of concussive force, absorb souls, and Adam uses this to fight cosmic threats. He is connected to the gem and knows where it is, even when he's not with it. However, before fully understanding the world, he was very primitive and tried to take Sif as a mate. And, well, as you can imagine, Thor wasn't quite all about it.
The Enclave, wanting to try and create the perfect person again, created Paragon. Paragon morphed into Aisha, who we see in the movie, also known as Her. Once she learned that him sought a mate, sought a mate. That's why they created her. So Aisha in the movies is the gold stuck-up lady that she creates Adam. In the comics, she searches the universe for him, only to discover he has perished and become entangled with the soul world.
Because why go on Tinder when you can literally just create your perfect soulmate in a cocoon?
Right? It's like a weird science almost.
Yes.
So it's going to get less confusing in a minute because we're going to start using Adam and Warlock. So he first gets the name Warlock from the High Evolutionary, and later he gets the name Adam from 3 teenagers on Earth.
How
and
original.
in August of 72, he got his own comic where he came to counter Earth and had to save its population from the man beast, who is a creature created by the High Evolutionary, this man beast was pretending to be a prophet. This is when Adam became Adam Warlock, or him became Adam Warlock. And he was kind of like a space Jesus / Messiah in this story.
Interesting. Adam has encountered Thanos, who once defeated him to the point he had to retreat inside of the Soul Gem, where he remained there for years. Adam is a friend of the Guardians, but as many superheroes do, he has accidentally gone to the dark side, you know?
Dun, dun, dun.
Sometimes it just feels good to be bad. One time he was trying to heal a gap in space and time, but his body was taken over by his evil alter ego, Magus. Magus made it look like some of the Guardians were dead, which angered Star-Lord, who then takes him down. The Magus is Warlock's greatest villain. He's just not an alter ego. It's an actual other physical being. The Soul Gem corrupted this older variant, and he can also time travel, which we'll talk a little bit more of him when we get to the Infinity series in just a second.
So when Thanos killed Gamora, Adam actually used the Time Stone and projected her spirit into a new body. So I do wonder, will we get old Gamora back? Is there a chance of that?
I'm very curious. Yeah, that's a good point, because if he did this, but we're done with the stones though, so we don't really have the stones.
Okay, so I have a theory on that we'll get to towards the end. I don't want to keep jumping too far ahead. But a lot of people did mention that with Black Widow and Gamora is in the comics, you can be in the soul world, in the soul stone. So are they dead, or is this just the afterlife? Can you pull them out like you can in the comics? I don't know. We'll see. Like, this is I don't know how strong they'll make him, because in the comics, he's incredibly strong.
Very OP in the comics. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I did notice, because I haven't read the Infinity Gauntlet series since before the movies came out, and going back and reading this, I've noticed that they call them gems, not stones. So I do wonder if there was some Fox thing and they weren't allowed to call them gems, or maybe they just thought stones sounded cooler. It could just be random. I don't know. So in 1990, he was part of the New Mutants and he died.
Tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
In 1991, which is the launch of the Infinity Gauntlet Infinity War series, this is the comic run of the Infinity series, which began because Thanos had fallen in love with death, as one naturally does in a depressed state. I mean, she didn't really return the feelings, which kind of hurts his feelings a little bit. But in the end credit scene of Avengers, which is where we see Thanos, he is told fighting the humans / Avengers is not a good idea, but he says to challenge them is to court death. Well, Thanos would love nothing more than to court death. And then you just see him smile, and, you know, that would have been hilarious if he's like, I'm just trying to get me a date with death.
I know. So I brought the other thing, an extra side note. When I was at MegaCon, I saw a Deadpool and he was dressed with somebody who looked like she could be Death. And I'm like, oh, are you Death and Deadpool? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, is there a Thanos here? And he goes, where are you, Thanos? And he held up his middle finger. But I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, Death has returned affection for Deadpool, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So in the comics, there is, I guess he could see death anytime he came to the brink of death. And eventually he does. And he even yelled, he's like, yes, I finally died. The kid at MegaCon. So that was cute. But yeah.
Well, to win Death's affection, Thanos got all of the Infinity Stones and put them in a gauntlet and made half the living beings vanish, as one tends to do when they're in love. Look, love makes you do really crazy things. Sometimes it's, I'm going to sell my car and give you $60,000 to go on a cruise. I don't know. Other times it's, I'm going to kill half the universe.
Is that from personal experience?
Oh God, no. Heavens no. Fly across the country on a whim, maybe. But yeah, love makes you do crazy things, like have a couple of kids and get into some 18-year commitments, folks. Anyways, after this has happened, Adam got all of the still alive heroes together to fix this here problem. Nebula is actually the one who gets the gauntlet and returns all of the people who vanish, but she does not do very good things as well. Thanos aids the remaining heroes in defeating her because she went bad, as again one does, with power. And in the comic book, she's actually his granddaughter. When Adam Warlock ultimately attains the Infinity Gauntlet, he uses its power to undo all that it had wrought.
So the Infinity War, so the Infinity Gauntlet one is like an issue on its own or 6-issue run on its own. And then we go to Infinity War, which is a continuation. So with the Gauntlet, Adam then expels the good and evil aspects of his being to become a totally logical being who can therefore use the Gauntlet wisely. He does this subconsciously. This act, however, recreates his evil alter ego Magus as a separate being who is now being manipulated by Thanos. Everyone thinks Thanos is like, that part I do remember because everyone's like, oh, Thanos is just helping us. And you find out, no, he's playing you. Warlock and the now inactive Gauntlet are captured by the Magus and both attacked by Doom and Kang. In the end, however, Thanos reveals that Magus was tricked and never gained omnipotence because the reality gem on the Gauntlet was fake. The Living Tribunal then decides the stones should never all be together, which is said at the end of Dark World when the Collector asks why they're bringing him the Reality Stone. A lot more happens in these stories. They're definitely worth giving a read. But this is the gist of kind of like how Adam played into it. So he was a very big role in these stories. There was also a goddess alter ego of Adam that was involved. And the fact that Adam subconsciously purged good and evil from him with the Gauntlet made it so the Living Tribunal didn't trust him with the Gauntlet and worried it would mess up the natural order of things. So he created the Infinity Watch and divided up the gems to people he trusted, including Gamora and Drax, and Pip, who we saw in the mid-credit scene in Eternals, voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt. Well, shout out to Sean. He actually texted me. He was like, dude, he played Pip. And I completely forgot until now. So I'm glad you said something because that was one of our corrections from last week too, I guess.
I thought you had called that out. I thought you said Patton Oswalt was already, because I said he's in the MCU through Agents, and you said he is too. He's Pip the Troll.
No, I don't think I did. I knew I talked about him being MODOK, but that was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Later. Wow. He's 3 different Marvel characters, technically more if you consider the fact that he's multiple people in Agents. So later he himself actually becomes the Living Tribunal, but the good guy he is, he also creates a regular version of himself to continue about his business.
Yes. Now his superpowers / abilities. So he can resurrect himself and he gets stronger every time he comes back from his cocoon. Connection to the gemstone. Adam was designated as the avatar of life by the in-betweener in order to oppose the then avatar of death, Thanos, and keep a cosmic balance between life and death. He can remove and even judge souls. Shout out to Ghost Rider, who can kind of do some weird stuff like that too. And he can absorb energy and then manipulate it, which includes making a giant dragon become a tiny lizard. That's one of my favorite things. He can go a while without food or water because he absorbs energy elsewhere. Phosphor, what is it? Photosynthesis? He's like a plant. He's going to sit here and photosynthesize. He has super strength, superhuman durability and stamina, superhuman agility and reflexes. This includes dodging bullets and even making them dissolve before hitting him. He can fly really, really ridiculously fast. Heightened senses, including cosmic senses like detecting wormholes, and when somebody is teleporting. He's immune to some of the stuff the gemstones do. Man, they could have used him during the Infinity Saga, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, against Thanos, for sure.
Magic. And basically, he's pretty overpowered. He can pretty much do everything.
So in the comic Infinity Countdown, which was created from 2015's Secret Wars, when the stones were supposedly destroyed, they actually returned with the reconstitution of the multiverse. The return of the stones gets the attention of Kang. So this is what I was saying before. If Doctor Strange had put the multiverse back together in Spider-Man, could that be a reconstitution of the multiverse, possibly causing the stones to return? Oh. And maybe that's why Kang shows up. Or could Loki take some TVA paperweights, and are they back in business once outside of the world because there's no magic at the TVA? Does that render these stones useless only there?
I don't know that we're actually going to see the stones ever come back, honestly, though. I just don't see it happening because it'd be redundant. But I mean, yeah, it's not out of the realm of And
will Loki stay good?
I think I think he will.
So I do actually go into a little bit more of the stones and why they might not come back. So, I think that's all we have for specific for Adam Warlock. We do have some other random fun facts about the Guardians and about other people.
I will say real quick, if you want a really good rendition of Adam Warlock, play the latest Guardians of the Galaxy game that dropped, I think it was last year on PS5. Maybe it was 2 years ago now. He shows up in that game and it's really cool. And they fight this big magical being, which I actually think it might be the Magus, honestly.
No.
And
is he purple?
No, it's like some magical being that does some weird stuff and needs Adam Warlock and all this kind of good things. However, that game is really legit one of the best that I've played. And so I would check it out if for some reason you've been sleeping under a rock, go play Guardians of the Galaxy. It is so good.
Maybe I need to look into that before I see the movie. So going to the Infinity Stones real quick. When they first came onto the scene in the comics, there were actually infinity of them. The stones were created in the Eternals, Volume 1, number 20 in 1978, when the Celestials collectively had a sneezing fit, causing countless stones of great cosmic power to be spewed throughout the galaxy. So there's another reason. We've met Eternals now. We can just, put some pepper under their nose and you got Infinity Stones. So this is a quote from the Marvelous Movies website that I thought I feel like would kind of make it seem why the MCU limited it to 6 stones and why we might not see them again. So in the 90s, the writers, quote, soon realized that having literally infinity stones in the Marvel universe was way too complicated. They got to the point where almost every Marvel character had found one or more stones. They were even more prevalent and easy to find lying around than kryptonite is in Smallville. Most supervillains tried to use their stones to wipe out their enemies. Deadpool used his to create an endless supply of tacos. And J. Jonah Jameson just tried to wipe out his competing newspapers along with half of all good haircuts in the world.
I love how people would use these for different things, like Deadpool, tacos. J. Jonah Jameson, he's going to wipe out the other newspapers and get pictures of Spider-Man.
There you go. Other than Clone Sagas and Rob Liefeld, the presence of so many magic stones is the biggest reason why the 90s were such a weird time for comics.
It was the 90s, man. Anyways, Drax's name was originally Arthur Douglas. This is before Thanos killed his family. The first Guardians came from the future. The Guardians almost landed on the name Rocket Raccoon and his human hanger-ons, or Groot in the Branches. They then met a Vance Astro who had been on a team called GOTG, which they stole the name. Groot in the Branches honestly sounds
GOTG is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Obviously, yeah, sorry. That's right. But personally, I would have done Groot in the Branches. Like, that sounds like a really cool 80s band or like a 70s band, like The Who or something like that. Way cooler. I need to
put that on a shirt. Groot in the Branches. A little Groot dancing.
Yeah, like what if it's like Groot and then he just has like his branches are out and you have the Guardians just kind of hanging on it?
Yeah, with little musical
instruments
notes
and things. I think that's
listening to Awesome Mix Volume something.
Yeah. So finally, Rocket and Groot were once kidnapped by an alien TV executive named Mojo. Mojo forced them to be on a reality TV show, which was a hit, and many Rocket and Groot action figures were then sold.
So the High Evolutionary, before we leave, is Herbert Wyndham. He is a bit of a mad scientist and a master of genetics.
I don't know why it's the most like funny name. Like, he's this big bad guy and his name is Herbert.
Well, because a lot of these names are just older.
Maybe that's why he's so mad. Like, your name is Herbert, so yeah, I'd want to take over the galaxy too.
Oh, now I feel like you're making fun of Flynn Rider. Isn't that his Eugene Fitzherbert? Or maybe that's his last name.
I don't know.
Something like that. So he wants to combine human and animal DNA to create the perfect specimen. He's super duper smart and is considered to be a villain, but not all the time, because none of them are all the time. Mr. Sinister was actually a bit of an inspiration for him. He did go to Oxford, but was later kind of shunned from the community because of all his animal experimentation. He at one point encountered a demon named Chthon. He beat the demon, but his power escaped and found human hosts named Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. He then escaped Earth and created his own Counter Earth, which we mentioned before with Adam Warlock, and this is where Man-V shows up and ruins things. And today, though, in the comics, he's a bit more chill and can actually be helpful, but his experiments still get out of control sometimes, like because he'll do like experiments on dinosaurs and stuff. Yeah. And that's what we got.
That's what we have, folks. There you have it. We have gotten you prepared for Guardians of the Galaxy, which drops May 5th. I'm pretty excited personally. And if you want more Guardians of the Galaxy in a couple of weeks, actually next week, I'm sorry, we are going to have Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly on, where they actually just launched the newest run of Guardians of the Galaxy. Issue 1 came out April 12th, so you can get it at your local comic book shop, which I highly recommend now. We'll have them on here soon. Can't wait to chat with them. As always, go ahead, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews, where you get access to episodes early, access to our Discord, a little comic book bundle, and we're going to start doing special exclusive Patreon episodes where you'll get to hear us maybe talk about the MCU and on our rewatch, and then maybe I floated a couple other ideas out there. Let us know if there's anything that you would specifically want to see. In the meantime, Lauren, if you don't have anything, let's wrap this episode up.
I think I'm good.
All right, folks. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.
and you have this like George Lucas template to kind of work with. And he was talking about directing on Mando and on acting because he's done both. He says when he's directing, he likes to steal from the best.